Commercial Drones FM is brought to you by FLIR Delta. Delta is the definitive source for thermal drone knowledge, best practices, and training. Go to FLIR.com/Delta and get started now.
A small drone sparked enormous disruptions at London's Gatwick Airport this week. Thousands of passengers were grounded as police struggled to stop the drone or drones from flying into restricted airspace.
In addition to shrinking, drones are also getting more powerful, and they're flying for longer and further than ever.
These batteries will also give you about 27 minutes of flight time, which is a pretty long time, actually.
The authorities at Gatwick Airport near London discovered all of this for themselves on Wednesday when a small drone shut down the airport. Again and again, it flew into restricted airspace around the runway. Police arrived, a helicopter was called in, and yet the drone, or possibly several drones, police aren't sure, it couldn't be stopped.
Police have arrested 2 suspects in connection with the incident.
This is video of a bunch of guys at a gun range in Arizona trying to hit a drone.
There is no single technique for detecting drones or for bringing them out of the sky that is going to be 100% effective against 100% of drones in 100% of cases.
Drones have gotten a bad rap. It seems like every other week there's another near miss with a manned aircraft, intrusion over an airport, or impromptu drug delivery by a drone into a prison. For the most part, the majority of these incidents are overblown by the media. With any advanced piece of new technology, there will always be criminals who seek to exploit it, whether deliberate or accidental. The fact is, drones do a lot of good. For every overblown story out there that highlights a rogue drone doing something it shouldn't, there exists another that goes unnoticed, where someone with a drone has done something beneficial for society. There is no better recent example of this than the role drones played in the fire that broke out in Paris, nearly destroying the entire Notre Dame Cathedral.
Just a few days ago, the beautiful Notre Dame Cathedral in France was burnt to the ground, but it could have been a lot worse. Drones have been dragged through the mud in the press and media in recent news stories. Out of this story comes a positive bit of news. Firefighters obviously rushed to the scene to do their best and normally would be deploying a helicopter, but on this occasion they actually deployed drones, thanks to the Ministry of Culture, who had a DJI Mavic and also a Matrix M210. Now obviously deploying a helicopter in a scenario like that takes not just time, but also a considerable amount of money, not only to scramble the helicopter, fuel it up, pay for the crew, but also for the time it takes for it to get to the actual scene itself. Drones, on the other hand, can be deployed very quickly and be put up into the air within 5 minutes. Now the drones that they had available, the Mavic and the Matrix M210, didn't have any thermal imaging capabilities, but still, due to their high resolution cameras, they were able to guide the fire brigade to the most key parts of the fire so that they could fight the blaze as effectively and efficiently as possible. The spokesman for the fire brigade in Paris, called Gabriel Plus, stated that the drone viewpoint provided a live aerial view, allowing more efficient positioning of the fire hoses and also improving their strategy for fighting the flames, plus a more flexible option too.
Welcome to a special episode of Commercial Drones FM, brought to you by FLIR, the world's sixth sense. In the Notre Dame Cathedral scenario, drones were used to get an aerial overview of the scene, disseminate the situational information to the firefighting team, and use that to gain a tactical advantage and take action. Drones, and the humans who saw the potential in them, helped save Notre Dame from complete destruction. And it wasn't just aerial drones that helped. There were robots on the ground that doused the fire as well. So today I'm at Los Angeles International Airport. But I'm not just passing through the terminal area where most of us have been at one time or another. I'm here at a fire station, specifically Station 80s, Los Angeles Fire Department's little-known bastion of defense that protects the millions of travelers who pass through LAX every year. LAFD is a special fire department. They're one of the largest in the world. The LAFD organization as a whole is made up of several different fire stations, but Station 80s is the only one on LAX.
Again, this is the other side of the locker room that I was showing you. Let's flip that light on. Can you hit that light for me, Larry? Thank you. More dormitories.
The gentlemen here are elite professional firefighters. They're veterans, with nearly all of them having decades of prior experience in fighting many different types of fires. Here at Station 80s on LAX, they specialize in diffusing airport-related fires. And it's safe to say these guys know a thing or two about safety. And that's why drones are such a hot topic for them right now.
Well, these teams were out there, and we had quite, I would say, 50 to 80 people out doing a search and rescue out in the field, and they asked us to bring our drones for the first time in history. They've never done that before, these CERT teams. So I brought the 210 out there with the XT2 camera and the Z30, and I had it in the air, and I was flying before they came to me and asked, because I'm kind of evaluating the scene and seeing what everybody's doing and taking pictures and stuff. They say, hey, we need your help. Can you help us with this rescue? And I said, well, that's what I'm here for. And I said, what you got? And he showed me the hillside. All the rescuers are out there, and I had about 10 minutes left on my battery. And he says, we got a victim out here that's lost. We need your help to find him. I said, no problem. I'll probably find him right away. And I was being a little cocky, right?
That's Derrick Ward, firefighter and lead UAS pilot at LAFD. Derrick invited me here to get an inside look at how he and his team are integrating drones into their firefighting operational workflow. Derrick is leading that charge.
Well, I went out there, I got it at the right altitude, I put the entire hillside in the view of my camera, I had the thermal going, and I saw all the rescue workers down on the bottom, and all of a sudden I saw this illuminated speck up in the middle of this hill somewhere. I knew I had something. I was hoping it was the right guy. So I turned off my FLIR, I turned on the Z30, zoomed in, and I looked at him. I could see the guy's expression on his face, and I asked the IC, I said, is this your guy? And everybody was blown away. I mean, I had people just in tears about what I just did, because these guys are out there working for 15 minutes looking to find this victim, and they get a hold of this technology for the first time in history. They've never seen this before, and for me to be able to go out there and present it to them, for them to see it, was huge. So the point is, this technology is doing things that most people don't understand. That's what gets me. That's what my objective is, to train and show people what we can do. Because once they see it, we can tell them until we're blue in the face. They can listen to podcasts, they can do whatever they want to do. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand this until they've seen it. But if they see it, they're sold for life. They will get their equipment, they will start off, they will develop a program, and they'll go forward, and guess what? We'll start saving more lives and saving more property. And by the way, don't talk to me about costs, because you will save money by having a program. You need to ask yourself, how much are you going to save, not how much is it going to cost, because that's what it does overall.
Hell yeah, the right question.
So, of course, when covering fire and drones, how could we not talk about FLIR? Heat is their middle name. FLIR is a publicly traded company that develops thermal infrared sensor technology, and they are really, really good at miniaturizing their thermal cameras for use on small drones like the ones LAFD has. So that's why I brought along old podcast pal Randall Warnas, FLIR's global sUAS segment leader.
So when we were last time together, we did the whale episode, right? And that was all about quantitative data. It was all about getting a temperature measurement. The difference about this is that we're talking about more qualitative application of thermal imaging. So it's really, what can you see in the difference of temperature at any given time? Before we were talking about the guy that was missing in freezing cold temperatures. That's when thermal is at its best. When you have the human body being around the same temperature as the surrounding area, you're going to see less with thermal. And LA, maybe in that case, isn't always the best place for thermal. But when you do find these situations where it's life or death, where it's freezing cold temperatures, that's when this technology is going to be game changing. When it's dark and cold, thermal is your friend.
Can you see through smoke?
Yeah, exactly. So because the thermal sensor is not going to pick up these small particles that are in the air, that like smoke or fog, you're able to see through them. Again, things that with the naked eye you would be impinged by finding your suspect or your victim, you're able to pick those things up with the thermal camera.
But this isn't completely new. FLIR and LAFD have worked intimately together for many years now to pioneer the latest advancements in thermal technology and fighting fires. Handheld and vehicle-mounted FLIR cameras have been in use for quite some time now. They allow firefighters to locate hotspots that they may otherwise never see. FLIR's catchphrase, after all, is the world's sixth sense. Drones, being relatively new to the scene, have amplified the possibilities on how to maintain safety and situational awareness in firefighting situations. Even DJI, the world's largest drone manufacturer, recently announced a partnership with LAFD, where the two organizations will collaborate together to advance drone technology for public safety applications, bringing LAFD's learnings and experience to the table to then integrate it into the drone technology that they're now leveraging to help keep their firefighters and us safe. Before we hear more from Derrick about how he's using drones and thermal technology at his job at LAFD, let's get a little bit of insight into how FLIR has progressed over the years and where the company came from.
Sure. So FLIR is a 40-year-old company, so we've been doing thermal imaging for a while. And the original thermal imaging cameras were like old computers where they filled a room. They were huge and they were clumpy and they weren't necessarily the most easy thing to work with. That means that there was very few of them and very few people had the expertise to use them. Now that we've expanded our product lines into, utility inspectors, to fire departments, into cell phone adapted units, up to military helicopters and airplanes, we have all of this whole breadth of users that are taking this technology that isn't familiar to the average person, and it's starting to leverage their minds and leverage their experiences, where we're learning more and more by the vast numbers of users. So now that we have this drone technology carrying our payloads, we're learning a lot more about how to adjust and adapt thermal imaging to be more useful at different times of day, from different angles and perspectives, accounting for all the atmospheric stuff that can make it so that thermal image is a little bit distorted. And as we put these in more hands, especially in public safety, right now I anticipate between 1,000 to 1,500 fire departments are using drones today in the United States. And drones, not necessarily thermal imaging drones, but as we make our technology more accessible and more people are using them, then we get the feedback to where we can truly take the next step and make it so that these things are going to save more lives and more property. And part of that is reducing our costs, which is going to happen when we have more users. That's just kind of the nature of economics. And also just make our technology more appropriate for these use cases. If you look at the ZenMuse XT2, it's IP rated, so you can fly that thermal imaging camera in all sorts of weather, where maybe before you wouldn't want to because of the investment that it is. So those are the sorts of things where we're going to just keep making advancements to suit the public safety space.
So let's learn more about how the firefighters from the past are using cutting-edge technology to pioneer our firefighting tactics of the future.
So, you hit the nail on the head, starting with aircraft, right? We got infrared cameras on every single rig, and they're there for a reason. It's a mandatory tool for us to use.
Derrick is the kind of guy that can just rattle off a litany of use cases for drones with thermal cameras in his line of work at LAFD. Being based at Station 80s on LAX, they sometimes have to deal with some very unique scenarios, like a potential passenger airplane coming in hot.
So you go out and you practice with those. So on aircraft, the thermal cameras are all on our rigs, and we'll use those when we get to an incident to see if the undercarriage or part of the airplane's got a heat signature that shouldn't be there, so that we can identify and put it out. But I can't think of an area or a place on an emergency where we wouldn't use one or wouldn't need one.
To be clear, Derrick and his team at LAFD aren't flying drones around when an airplane is coming in for an emergency landing at LAX yet. There are some obvious hurdles to jump through with that before it's feasible, but there are plenty of other uses for a drone on an airport. Just imagine the amount of jet fuel stored on fuel farms at a place like LAX. If there's a potential fire there, getting a drone up quickly would be extremely useful.
On a structure fire, you're able to identify heat signatures on that roof. We go up to a roof and we ventilate those roofs every time we have a structure fire. The purpose of that is to get rid of all the preheated gases from the building so that our engine companies can go in and extinguish the fire. The bottom line is it's way too hot. We've melted helmets going into these structures, right? So we need to cut a hole in the roof. You'll see firefighters go to a structure fire, a house fire, whatever. They get a ladder to the roof, they go up there, they cut a hole. It's a ventilation hole. If you're on a commercial building, it's a big, huge panelized roof you're looking at. Well, you got heat coming from different areas, and you're going on the roof, you're actually sounding the roof out with a pike pole or a rubbish hook, and you're hitting the roof to check its stability. You know, you have these huge areas that you have to identify, is it safe, is it not safe? And 90% of the time we're good. We know what we're doing, we're trained to do that. But if we had the capability to put a thermal image on that roof and identify dangerous areas, we can avoid putting our firefighters in that harm's way. And by the way, that happens, you know, frequently, where we have a firefighter go through a roof. It's all over the country where this is happening because it's a dangerous job, it's a dangerous situation, and the thermal camera on a drone is going to make that dangerous job a little safer for everybody, right? So that's a structure fire. Search and rescue, it's an absolute as far as I'm concerned. If you're out looking for a lost victim in a field or in an area, you're able to take and search out yards and miles of space with a drone. That's huge. You know, can you do it with a helicopter? Yeah, you're doing it with a helicopter, but you're spending thousands of dollars doing it. And if you have a department that doesn't have that money, a lot of departments don't have helicopters, and we're not here to replace helicopters by any means. That's not ever going to happen. We're here to augment that. We're here to help, to make that job of saving that victim run smooth and quickly. So these are just some of the examples of, in my eyes, how, you know, everybody needs to have this technology.
Next stop, we're checking out the hardware.
We have two 100s, DJI 100s. We got 4 Phantom 4 Pro Pluses.
Derrick went ahead and showed me the collection of drones that LAFD has and that his team uses to get things done. And most of them, all of them, are made by DJI. No surprise there. But one of the really interesting things is not the actual drone itself. It's the sensor that the drone carries. This is what makes it so important to have a drone, to fly above something, to get that aerial view, and to get that thermal image, which is so important for operations like these in public safety and firefighting. And FLIR's developed technology that DJI has integrated into their systems, and it's really interesting. It's kind of tough to explain. It's called MSX technology. It's not just part of the FLIR camera. It's actually a clever way of using a couple different pieces of hardware, camera sensors, a thermal sensor and an RGB sensor, and kind of laying those two images on top of each other. And here's Randall and Derrick explaining that.
Capabilities of this, but the technology with MSX technology is a mind blow, and it's a game changer, because what we're doing is we're overlaying, and you can correct me, Randall, if I say any of this wrong, but we're overlaying a normal photo over an infrared photo, giving you all the detail and outline that you would normally not get with an infrared camera. And so why does that help you? Well, when you're identifying numbers on the side of an overturned tanker or anything you need to get that information, that gather more information, more situational awareness, you're able to do that with this camera. And not only that, but the image itself is so much more clear. It's a high-performance camera. It's a good camera. Anything to add, Randall, on that?
No, I think that you covered it. When we built the Zenmuse X-T2, we wanted to make it so that you could deploy both a visible and thermal camera without coming back and putting on a different camera. That was really the initial intention. But MSX, being able to blend those images together, give you more context, like you were saying, so that, you know, we did it with really emergency services in mind, because those missions are so critical to every second that you need to be able to look at an image and know exactly what you're looking at.
The Z30 zoom camera, along with the X-T2 camera, Having those together, you have a great toolbox of resources to be able to accomplish your goal. Your goal is to go out and save or rescue a victim or identify something. So when you have the thermal pulling up that different color image that you're getting, right? And not only that, but you have temperature parameters you can set with this thermal. So I can go out there, if I'm looking for a person, I can set my alarm system on this thermal camera to 100 degrees, and anything that hits 100 degrees, that's going to let me know immediately. And it's going to let me know on my screen because there's a red dot and there's a blue dot showing you the hottest and the coldest point in that image. So, and Randall will also let you know that you're able to identify the exact temperature in every pixel within that image. So the technology on this thing is through the roof, right? But that being said, the demonstration I did yesterday with the CERT team,
Derrick describes the utility of having both of these DJI Z30 zoom cameras, this 30x optical zoom camera. Very, very crazy camera to put on a drone, especially for these purposes, and then combining that with thermal and being able to switch back and forth in the mission that he was explaining at the very beginning of the episode.
I could see clearly that it was something different. So I went directly from the thermal camera to the Z30, and again, zooming in to make sure I knew what I had. And now I make sure that I don't have a false positive. I'm able to recognize exactly what I have and distinguish the fact that, hey, I just found your victim.
Could you do this? Could you do that? Have done that without the thermal capabilities?
Listen, we can do it without thermal. What we're doing is we're increasing our odds and saving time. And we know that in life-saving business, time is of the essence. It's the most important factor in everything we're doing. Just recently with the thermal camera, it was somewhere, and Randall probably knows better than I do, but they had...
Derrick tells a story about a different fire department in the U.S. that used a drone whenever there was a missing person alert, an elderly man. And the search was called off. It was below freezing, and nobody could find this guy. The fire department decided not to give up. They wanted to use all the resources they had. They put up their drone, equipped it with the thermal camera, and then within 3 to 4 minutes, they find the man underneath a bridge and were able to save his life.
Under a bridge and save his life. And by the way, this is in very cold, below freezing scenario. So he very well could have died, right? And this happens all the time. But what do we hear in the news mostly? What do people who aren't in the industry hear? They hear about the drone that's at the airport. They hear about the having to ground aircraft at the brush fires. And so that in combination with, in the old days, we hear the drones are spying on people and then what the military uses them for, right? And so it's our job to let people know, listen, this technology is going to save 1,000 times more lives than it's going to cause problems. We're going to put an end to these problems. FAA is already working on regulations to do remote identification and be able to identify when there's a bad player in the air. But that being said, we need to start carrying, and when I say we, I'm talking about emergency services, fire departments, police departments. They need to actively look into this technology, because if they don't, I've said it before, and some people think I'm a little harsh when I say it, you're negligent. We have the capability to do something. If it's your daughter that's lost out in that field, you want every specific resource you possibly can get, right? But why are we not attacking this technology? Why are we not absorbing this and mandating that every fire department, police department in this country is trained and understands this technology? Why haven't we done that? I'm not satisfied with what we have so far.
So look, this technology is definitely not cheap. The drone that Derrick's been showing off to me, the DJI M210 with the Zenmuse Z30 and the XT2, costs a pretty penny. It's upwards of $25,000. And so that is one of the challenges that Derrick thinks the entire public safety organizations across America are really struggling with. Part of it is the cost. It's not exactly the regulations, he goes on to explain. He tells me that it's so easy. He filed a NOTAM the other day, and he was able to go ahead and go fly and accomplish his mission. It wasn't a big deal, and he knows that the regulations will eventually get there. It seems to really be based on cost.
Their decision hasn't been made to put it within the budget. And the reason they haven't put it within the budget, they don't understand the urgency. And so, and it's a slow move, even for us. We're still trying to show what we can do to get more and more funding to go forward, right? But in every aspect, you have captains and chiefs that get the technology, they want to employ it in their fire departments and police departments, but they aren't the ultimate decision makers when it comes to the budget. They have to write out the reports, they have to write the request to put UAS within the budget, and it gets denied. And why? In their minds, the people, the decision makers, they have more important things they're already working on, things they're struggling to try to fight to get. So what we need to do, it is education. We hear that all the time. But what we really need to do is mandate that fire departments and police departments and emergency services understand at least what they're missing and what this technology can do. Because at that point, when you have a full understanding of it, you will mandate it as being part of your budget. That's what's got to happen.
So there you have it. Even though drones get a bad rap, they're an absolutely invaluable tool for firefighting and public safety teams. When adding on a thermal camera to the mix, you're literally on an entire other level in terms of capability, efficiency, and situational awareness. As if it weren't obvious, I'm an advocate for the proliferation of drone technology, especially in situations where these drones that do good are the difference between life and death. To check out pictures from this podcast, go to commercialdrones.fm. It's episode number 91. Huge thanks go out first and foremost to Derrick Ward and the entire crew and team at Station 80s at LAX. Thank you so much for hosting me at your beautiful home on the airport. I really had an unforgettable time. Thank you to Randall Warnas and the rest of the gang at FLIR for arranging this. Stories like these are not only good for the industry, but for public safety as a whole. Credit for the news clips at the beginning of the episode go to NPR and Droning On YouTube. I'll link those up on the website. If you're interested in hearing another one of Randall and I's past adventures, which is a podcast episode similar to this, but with whales, go listen to episode number 79 on Commercial Drones FM. It's called Expedition Too Hot for Snot. It's the story of taking the world's first radiometric temperatures of whales' blowholes using drones. It's really cool. As always, thanks for listening. It's time to cut off the mics. Cheers. Go first. I'm a little nervous, actually. I don't know why.
I feel a little nervous for some reason.
Okay, so
You got it.
both arms.
Now wrap them tight in. Yeah, now wrap your legs. Yep, wrap your legs.
And just go down.
Yep.
All right, are we recording? Point the mic at me. All right, guys, this is my last will and testament. I leave my recording gear to Derrick. All right.
Yeah. That was a nice job, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
It was very